Welcome to the Illinois Perinatal Quality Collaborative Labor Management Support e-modules. These e-modules were made as a resource to support hospital implementation of the ILPQC Promoting Vaginal Birth, or PVB, initiative. The aim of the PVB initiative is for 70% of Illinois hospitals to be at or below the Healthy People 2030 goal of 23.6% cesarean delivery rate among NTSV, or nulliparous term singleton and vertex births, by December 31st, 2022. Our goals include increasing the percent of C-sections among NTSV births that meet ACOG SMFM criteria for cesarean, as well as educating physicians, midwives, and nurses on ACOG and SMFM criteria for cesarean, including labor management strategies. Hospital quality improvement teams participating in the PVB initiative are working on 5 key strategies to reduce cesareans among NTSV births, including labor management support. ILPQC partnered with Jessica Brumley, the co-creator of the Florida Perinatal Quality Collaborative, or FPQC, labor support workshops, completed by over 400 nurses and providers in Florida as part of FPQC's Promoting Primary Vaginal Deliveries, or PROVIDE initiative. Jessica is Director of Midwifery at the University of South Florida Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, where she leads a team of 14 midwives and advanced practice nurses. She also serves as an advisor on the FPQC PROVIDE initiative. In August and September of 2021, Jessica and ILPQC worked together to offer 2 live virtual labor management support courses for nurses and providers in Illinois. These sessions were recorded and broken down by topic into this collection of 14 e-modules ranging from 6 to 21 minutes each. We are excited to share them with you. Now I will turn it over to Jessica.
So now I wanted to talk about all of these tools, right? What is it that we can do to help to promote labor progress? Right. Although, many have encouraged a supine position during labor, this position has known adverse effects, including supine hypotension and more frequent heart rate decelerations. And so I go back to that meme I mentioned earlier, right? Laying flat on your back feels so much better, said no laboring woman ever. What can we do to help to support freedom of movement, upright and ambulatory positions, non-pharmacologic comfort measures, and use of techniques that facilitate fetal rotation, flexion, and descent for women with epidural analgesia as well. And then also having, knowing maternal exercises and positions that help to facilitate fetal rotation for women with and without anesthesia. We know that if we stay upright, women have shorter labors, less epidurals, fewer C-sections, and that this also helps the uterus, a muscle, work more efficiently. And this is also going to help the baby find the best way to fit through the birth canal. And also when labor slows, oftentimes a change of position will help patients to just kind of find their rhythm again. And if you have a baby in a posterior position, then getting on your hands and knees and may help the baby to rotate and decrease back pain. So I add just a little bit about intermittent continuous fetal monitoring versus intermittent auscultation for low risk patients. I've given workshops on intermittent auscultation implementation, and so for women who are low risk, then continuous monitoring increases the likelihood of a cesarean section, and has not been shown to improve neonatal outcomes. And it restricts movement. It's harder to move around. We also just tend to respond to every little thing when we continuously monitor patients. And it has the potential to reduce nursing interaction and labor support. ACNM has a toolkit on implementation of intermittent auscultation. And so, basically, this would, in essence, if you implemented a policy like this, make it necessary for providers to write an order for continuous monitoring, the opposite of what happens at most facilities where continuous monitoring is sort of the baseline. So I encourage people to look more into this because it really helps to facilitate that sort of freedom of movement and that normal birth process for our low risk patients. So, but right now I just mention it because I know how much it can help to facilitate position changes and positions that promote physiologic labor and descent are, I mean, all over the place. There's so many. It's limitless on the different positions that we can use, right? You can get in hands and knees or child's pose. You can just be standing or walking, leaning over, swaying your hips, sitting on a birth ball or the toilet. They call it the dilation station, the toilet, lunging, doing some kind of exaggerated sims, using a peanut ball, is just all over the place. So walking and being upright can lessen the discomfort for some women. And walking for short periods can be part of a rhythmic ritual that help women to cope in labor, right? So it can just be kind of part of your rhythm. Standing and leaning, I like this because you see here that they're close to someone else, right? And so they feel comforted by that other person. So in addition to using gravity, you also just have like that natural oxytocin that you get when you're feeling supported and cared for by someone else. Leaning over a bed, can be, the bed can be used in this way. And, there's a midwife that gives a presentation and talks about working in England and how the midwives in England this is pre-computers, would do their charting on the bed. So they'd put the bed and on this one birthing unit as high up as it would go and put their, the patient's chart on the bed. And it was a way to sort of reflect to the patient that this is not actually where we want you to be. We want you up and moving around and in other parts of, of your room to really help them, to be moving around. So in here you see that the bed is up, but there's also some extra pillows there to be comfortable. And the bed can also be used as sort of like a grounding tool, right? She's holding onto the bed and feels like she can steady herself there. Leaning even more over, you see that this way the belly kind of, dangles a little bit and it can take some of the pressure off of the lower back. And you can also give some massage or do a double hip squeeze or counter pressure in this position. Squatting opens up the diameters of the pelvis. Also we know that it lessens genital tract trauma and a shorter second stage. So we have lots of different tools that we can use, to help to support squatting, and squatting with a partner is just one of them. Here we've got somebody on the dilation station. Sitting positions during labor assist the natural, force of gravity to encourage fetal descent. And can improve the quality and effectiveness of labor contractions. In addition to a toilet, you can be in a sitting position on a rocking chair or on a birth ball, whatever tools that you have available. I think I most frequently use the birth ball, like the picture on the right, where it's like really stationed right next to the bed, so that you can sort of, they can hold themselves and steady themselves on the bed. And then I usually position the partner right behind them to help with some lower back pains. But you can also use it on a hands and knees position. So leaning over a ball as well in this kind of hands and knees position, supports that upper body. And so even patients with an epidural can often be supported with the birth ball in a hands and knees position. And evidence on birth balls shows that it promotes spinal flexion, increases the uterospinal angle, allows for upright movement without exhaustion of the legs, reduces pain, and it can also increase the pelvic inlet and outlet and facilitates OP rotation, all of this leading to a shorter first and second stage. So ideally, your knees should be lower than your hips or at a 90-degree angle, not higher than your hips. So thinking about the height of your patient and the size of your birth balls can be helpful. Wonder, does anybody use a cub? This was something that we didn't have for quite some time. And after I started taking these on the road as part of our labor support workshops, our hospital finally got one. CUB is short for comfortable upright birth. And you can see that I don't know, you can call it like there's sort of two pockets of areas that can be inflated. So it can be fully inflated, or you could just have it in half the size. And you can use it on the bed, on the floor. They can sit on it, lean over it. So it's just like another tool to help to support upright birth. And you can see that there are just so many different positions and ways that that we can use this tool. So if we're in bed, then we can use the peanut ball, and there are different size peanut balls. We have 3 different sizes depending on the company that you use. There are different colors, and we can really help to keep the pelvis open by using the peanut balls. This is a great tool, especially for patients with an epidural, but also just if somebody just feels like they need to be restful in bed, right? And they're just like, I just am tired. We can use this as well. And these have also been shown to decrease the length of labor. I remember when we first got our peanut balls, I knew nothing about them. It was just something that popped up on the unit. The nurses had really advocated for them. And I had this patient who was having a trial of labor after a cesarean, and she was 7 centimeters and 7 centimeters. And I went in and I talked to, one of the physicians, and I said, listen, I'm like going to go in there and reposition her and try this thing. And if she doesn't make any change in the next hour or so, then we're going to need to call the section. And he was like, yep, okay, whatever. And I went in and we tried for the very first time this peanut ball, and 45 minutes later, she was complete. And it was amazing. And what a success that really felt like. And little stories like that, I think, make so many of these tools just readily adopted, right? Because you see the power of labor progress when we change the positions. So I think lots of people have, you just have one experience like that, and you're like, let's use the peanut ball, or let's use the birth ball, or get out that cub and get her into this position. So here you have her on her side. You have an exaggerated Sims position. I like the sitting up position with the knee under, with the ball under one knee, and then the other knee flat out towards the door. So this kind of replicates like a lunge. It's an asymmetrical position, and we'll have a video on some asymmetrical positions later, but this is one tool that we can use to help to facilitate that, particularly in our patients with epidurals. I love that our beds are so amazing. You can, drop the foot. And so we really just made a whole throne here, right? I dropped the foot of the bed. The bottom part of it almost has a little dip in it, sort of like a cutout for when they're pushing. There's really, but also it can relieve some of the pressure on the perineum when they're upright. And so she really feels I don't know, I think a little more powerful sitting, kind of up like this. But it's, we can use our beds sort of to the full extent that they're, that they're capable of. So this is, I showed this earlier, but this is, sort of a bigger version of this tool, and it highlights the rollover sequence. And I would never say this to a woman, but I think of it as a rotisserie chicken. Because you're rolling her over in like the full 360, right? And so are we getting to all of the angles? Sitting up, being on your right side, and then getting into that sort of, exaggerated sort of right side with one knee up, getting on hands and knees, and then doing the same on the left side. I found in my experience that the hands and knees is often the position that is not as readily utilized, in part because it can be a little more challenging to move patients with an epidural into this position. But using help, using supportive tools such as a birth ball, or I even use a peanut ball to support their upper body sometimes. Sometimes I'll lower the foot of the bed just a bit to create a ledge there, so there's something for the knees to push up against. Elevate the stirrups just right, the foot pedals just a little bit to kind of create a cradle for the legs and kind of secure her a bit more. It's a really powerful position, and really, I think, important that we go through the full rotation.